Hey guys, it's Color Studios here, and in today's video we're covering something I certainly was not expecting, but I think is definitely a telltale sign of some big things to come to Great Adventure in the future. So I visited the park on Saturday, December 16th, and that was also the day that they were hosting a food drive. So they had the safari truck set up outside the front entrance of the park, and there's a banner on the safari truck, which I didn't really think too much of until I came back later and took a closer look at it and noticed that there's a brand new logo that has never been used before on that truck for Great Adventure, and it actually has a new name for the entire property: Six Flags Great Adventure Resort, theme park, water park, safari, glamping. Now, some of you might just say this as something minor, nothing really to pay too much attention to, but to me, this is a huge sign of what's to come for the park. I think this is definitely going to change the trajectory of additions, the way that the park is looked at, and more coming in the future. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at what this could mean, what we could be seeing coming in the future, and overall just what this means for the park. So for starters, the fact that it's being marketed now as a resort could just be to emphasize Savannah Sunset because they want to get some people in there, make it successful, they can continue building it up. Obviously that's definitely a factor, but I think there's more to it. For one, I think we could see a hotel, a proper hotel, built at the park within the next couple of years. For those of you who travel far to come to Great Adventure and look for a place to stay overnight, you know that it is very difficult to find a hotel nearby. There's supposedly one or two being built at Adventure Crossing, but as far as I know, none have been constructed on the property quite yet. Great Adventure has had plans in the past to introduce a hotel at various points in the history. I know at one point around 2005 with the construction of King Ka, there were talks back then of building a hotel and it wound up never happening. But I think they have a perfect spot set up for a hotel, which is where that old gas station is as you're coming into the park. I'm pretty sure they don't really use it anymore. If they do use it, it's just for the vehicles inside the park, and there's plenty of other spots for gas stations, so I think they could very easily tear that gas station down and replace it with a nice sized hotel. And it also helps with the merger between Cedar Fair and Six Flags, as this kind of introduces more opportunities for the Six Flags park, specifically Great Adventure. Great Adventure now being marketed as a resort definitely makes me think of Cedar Point and Knott's, both of which are technically resorts as well. Cedar Point a little more so because it's kind of set up on the peninsula. You got all kinds of different amenities associated with Cedar Point. You have the on-site hotel, multiple campgrounds and other hotels near the park. You have the sports center. Knott's, of course, they have the Knott's Hotel, Knott's Oak City, and Knott's Berry Farm, as well as the whole street area with all the shops. So I think Cedar Fair's leadership team could definitely help with incorporating something along these lines. It also makes me think of how Kings Island recently announced that they're building a new campground, and of course Carowinds a couple years ago opened their on-site hotel. So Cedar Fair definitely has a lot of experience with stuff like this, with trying to build their parks into being more of destination locations as opposed to just one-day adventures. Great Adventure has long been kind of in between. They have Hurricane Harbor, they have the Safari, they have Great Adventure, but they never went all the way with introducing a hotel. That way people could properly stay there for multiple days. But I think that the new park president, Brian Basica, is definitely looking to turn Great Adventure into this. He has experience at the Universal parks, which obviously are full-fledged resorts, and I imagine that he probably wants to bring some of his experience with that into Great Adventure. We've already seen some little changes here and there, but I think that very soon we're going to see big changes for Great Adventure, and this is just the start. So personally, I definitely think a hotel is in the cards for Great Adventure at some point in the future, probably near future. I think that right there at the entrance where that gas station is that isn't really used anymore would be a perfect spot for it. But I also think that there's a possibility looking down the line that there could be even more done with the park. Again, like I said, Brian comes from the Universal parks, and the Universal parks are well known for their CityWalk experiences. Basically, think downtown Disney, where you have a whole bunch of shops and stuff outside the theme parks that lead you up to the parks, and they're always open, they're free admission, kind of like a mall, but a little different because of course you're at a park and there's a mix of restaurants, retail, all sorts of different things. I think we could definitely see something similar to this come to Great Adventure, and now that again they're being marketed as a resort. I could definitely see the parking lot being rearranged a little bit so that you have a whole row of like CityWalk like experiences all in that parking lot area, because there's plenty of room to expand the parking. They could even make it into a parking deck if they really wanted to. And I could see this happening across multiple parks, quite honestly. I would not be surprised at all if we saw something like this come to Great Adventure, maybe even Magic Mountain, because there's a lot of room for it. And I think it would definitely be a good test to see how something like this works at a non-universal park. There's obviously a lot of people that live around these parks, and getting them there for more than just the coasters would definitely be something to capitalize on. This whole situation, though, definitely makes me think back to the mid-2000s, where that leadership team of Six Flags had huge plans for Great Adventure. For starters, they were supposed to get a ton of new coasters. I mean, there was a Giga coaster in the plans at multiple points throughout the park's history. They were going to build the park up to be this massive Cedar Point reminiscent park and build it into a giant resort with multiple gates, meaning multiple different parks all at the same resort, which I think would have been really cool. But I do think that's still something that could be in the cards. Of course, I'm not saying Great Adventure's building a second gate next year or anything like that. If anything were to happen, it would be at least a decade from now. I think this next decade or so is going to be a big experimental phase for the park. They're still going to be investing tons of money into the park in terms of coasters and rides, as well as events and whatnot. But I think they're going to be trying out different things. We already see that Salim has tried out different things across the whole chain. Of course, nothing on a huge scale per se, but like different experiences with shops and whatnot. And I think as time goes on, we're going to see more and more experimental things come to the parks that get bigger and bigger in size. Of course, I know that the merger has, of course, almost closed at this point. It should be closing in about a month or two, we'll see. But Cedar Fair probably wouldn't be too against trying out different things. Now that Cedar Fair and Six Flags won't be competing anymore, they don't necessarily have as much to lose with trying out new things. So I think that the merger will overall spark some innovation within both companies to try out new things that they haven't before. So Great Adventure, in my opinion, is probably a great place to try this stuff out. For one, they by far have the most land out of any of the parks in the Cedar Fair or Six Flags chain. It is an absolutely massive property. You have all that room in the safari, all that room next to the park. There's just room everywhere. So I think Great Adventure is definitely going to be an experimental property, and renaming the park now to Six Flags Great Adventure Resort is definitely telling me that this park is going to see some major changes in the next couple of years. Hopefully good. I think they will be good. Great Adventure is going to become something much more than just a one day, let's go to the park and have some fun. I think it's going to transform into something like Cedar Point, maybe even more, where you're going to be able to stay there, you'll be able to go shopping, have some different experiences. Of course, you have the coasters, the water park, you have the safari, Savannah Sunset you could stay at. So I think Great Adventure is definitely on a really exciting trajectory, and I cannot wait to see where it winds up leading. But I want to hear what you guys think about Great Adventure being rebranded now as Six Flags Great Adventure Resort. Of course, this hasn't been like publicized in a press release or anything. This is just something I spotted in the park. I imagine they might make a bigger deal out of it as time goes on. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.